Karianne Kjønås, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
You absolutely nailed it at our Christmas table, our Christmas meeting, the ISACA Christmas meeting this year.
Yeah, thanks for getting to be here and talk about this topic.
We're going to be talking about a topic that we all take very much for granted, and that is food security or food safety. What would you call that?
I think food
safety.
Food safety is the term, but that's kind of in a separate discussion in terms of like having the supplies. But so this is kind of ensuring food security through cybersecurity.
Yes. The supply chain of food for cyber. Yeah, whatever. Either way, what did you study?
I took first the bachelor's degree in IT operations and information security. And then I continued on the Master of Information Security, specializing in information security management.
And where was this? NTNU?
NTNU in Gjøvik.
Yeah.
So
cool.
They have.
Are there lots of farms there? Or?
It's Innlandet, so yes, definitely surrounded by farmland.
Yeah, right. So the context for the listeners is that you, why don't you tell us what the context of this episode is? What did you write your master's about?
Yeah. So I did my master thesis on how cybersecurity incidents can affect Norwegian food production. I sent that into ISACA and won the ISACA award this year.
The best master oppgave, the best master thesis, 2023.
So that
food.
Was really fun.
That was really good. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So just as an introduction, I don't think people think about this very often. In your slides, I remember you had like a industrial revolution about where food is. Why don't you give us an update on how technologically advanced food is these days? Yeah,
so I think many people think of farming as the traditional type, but we've done farming for forever, it seems, in this world. It's a very old industry. But with the industrial revolutions, farming has taken quite a technological development. And so they introduced steam machinery, and that was used in farming as well. And then electricity and OT and IT technologies are very much in use in farming today. And then especially now with data being so important, it's also very important for farming. And automation and IoT and AI and all of these very high technological solutions are used a lot in food production, especially in more developed countries. And this will vary quite across the world, but also here in Norway, the US is very far along in terms of this.
And then you, for your thesis specifically, I know you had like everything from like dairy farming. How many different like sectors of or food production is there?
I think there's more than I have control over. But so I looked at cattle and pigs in my thesis specifically. But also chicken is uses a lot of technology, and you have many uses, goats and sheep. But there for geofencing is very popular. And then you also have the fish industry, big thing here in Norway, and production there. But also more farmland and that type of agriculture and cereals and for milling and vegetables and crops. And we have a lot of areas where different technologies are used.
I remember you presenting up there, and I got lost in my head because I was like, the fish farmers, they use these technologies, right? They use lasers to, zap the fish and their loose. And so every single vertical when it comes to food has their own technology, and they're all from are they all from like similar producers? Do you know?
I think there are a lot of, for one industry, you have some very big producers, like in milking and dairy, you have De Laval, which is an international company, and it's used a lot in the US as well. And it's a big one here in Norway, and also Lely is also international. So I don't know about all other industries, but at least for tractors and these kind of big machinery, they are international companies.
Yeah. John Deere is John Deere, no matter where in the world you are, I guess.
Yeah.
But like that first company you mentioned when it came to dairy, was that like a milker machine or something? Or
yeah, they produce milking robots, which are used critical. We'll get into it, but it's critical for production of dairy. In the name, it's a milking robot. In the US, for example, you have huge carousels where you can milk hundreds of cows simultaneously. And in Norway, we often have one machine or two on the bigger farms.
Yeah. Is that just because of the supply demand, or like why so many more in the States?
Yeah, it's
rules maybe
very like difference in also obviously size of the country. That's a lot to say. We are a small country in Norway, but also like how centralized or decentralized the farming industry is. In Norway, we have 38,000 different farms, more, and though it's less than it was before, we have centralized somewhat. We still have a lot of different locations, and a big farm can have 60 cows is considered a big dairy farm in Norway. In the US, that will be very small, and they have more centralized big production industries, basically. While in Norway, we have a model that allows for very much smaller farming. And also we have, because of the way our country is built with all the mountains, it's easier to have distributed production to deliver all this. So we want to produce locally.
Short traveled food.
Yeah, it's
directly translated.
Yeah, it's a value in our country also, and I think that probably has had an effect on us still being decentralized in that way.
Yeah, I know from experience that in California, if you're driving from where I'm from to San Francisco, for example, you'll drive by these like dairy farms, and you can drive for 5 minutes going 100 miles an hour, and you're still at the dairy farm, and there's like hundreds of thousands of cows, you know?
Yeah, so in that, we don't have that in Norway.
No, good. The cows are happy for that. They say happy cows come from California, but I'm not sure if that's true. But anyway, tell us about your thesis. What did you do in your thesis?
Yeah, so it's a qualitative study, and as preparation for the study, I did a literary review on basically just looking at what research is there on cybersecurity in farming technologies globally. And I saw there was really a lack of research into how cyber incidents and threats, because there were huge research on threats to farming technologies, and they said like this attack can have consequences for availability, but no one considered in a structured manner went into, okay, but if this system is unavailable, what does that mean for production on that farm and their ability to deliver their product? And so I wanted to gather, and there's very little data, so it had to be kind of a qualitative study, just figuring out, okay, what technologies do we actually use on farms in Norway, and then which of these are critical for production, because that's really what's interesting. If a hacker takes down a system that isn't really critical, then it doesn't really have a big consequence.
And what did you find?
Yeah. So first I interviewed 14 cattle and pig farmers, basically, again, on what technologies they used and how important they were in terms of confidentiality, integrity, and availability. And also I interviewed 2 service technicians of milking robots, just to see how easy are they to attack. And basically what I found that it's not difficult to attack for example, a milking robot, but attacking one farm in huge won't really have an effect on the supply of food, especially in Norway. And also, there are very few systems that they use that are critical, but for dairy farming, it's the milking robot is the only critical system. And then for the pig farmers, they are critically dependent on the feeding system, the automatic feeding system, because there are so many kilos involved with feeding pigs, and they didn't have the manual capacity to
didn't have enough arms to feed them, right?
Yeah, it's a lot of kilos, and if you have about 60 pigs or over 100, then you're not like, it's not cost efficient also to hire that many people to do it when you can get a machine to do it. And so these are critical, and it's not difficult for a hacker to stop these systems, but that doesn't really affect the national food supply in Norway. And so what I say is that for a threat actor that wants to affect the food supply, the supply chain is really a much more interesting target.
I'd be very surprised if a dairy, a cow farmer, or somebody that works with pigs, they're not exactly security people. Can you confirm that?
Yeah, no. That in the literature review I did, someone had actually in Finland interviewed dairy farmers and looked at the network security and also about their capabilities. And yeah, farmers have a lot of work to do, and they do not have any education in security as well, so they don't have the capacity or the capabilities to stand up to serious threat actors. But at the same time, there are small things they can do in basic security measures. And one of the farmers I interviewed actually had been hit by a ransomware, but she had a son that knew security, so was able to kind of stop it, luckily for her. But so there are some things they can do, but that's more to protect themselves, because it's very sad for the farmer and they lose money if they are hit. But in the UK, they did the NCSC, yeah. Yeah, went together with a union for farmers and developed a farmer guide to cybersecurity.
Cool. And I would guess that same guide would be applicable to both your friend in Finland and in Norway, right?
Yeah, I think in general, basic measures on password policies and what you should use, limit use of personal things on the farmhouse network, and these types of simple measures and two-factor authentication. It's globally good advice.
Yeah, right.
And that just protects the farming, because the farmer, it's a business and you want to protect your business. And that's an easy way with very low costs. They can protect themselves.
Yeah, right. So, if I remember from presentation, so if you're going to attack an individual farm, that would be a very easy pen test to get around, I guess, especially if you're dealing with somebody advanced. But let's say for some reason some foreign actor wanted to disrupt the food supply at a nation level. How is that possible?
The supply chain
in a Norwegian context.
Yeah. So the supply chain is very big, or there are a lot of actors involved, and I don't myself have an overview over all actors. I learn new names regularly of companies. But yeah, you have lots of different factors. You have those that deliver machines to the farms, for example, like the Lava and Lely, and the feeding system producers and all of these. And for example, if we look at the SolarWinds attack and sending a virus through a software update, if an advanced threat attacks the Lava and pushes out a virus in their security update, then you can do a lot of damage across Norway, because that milking robot is very popular in our country.
Right.
And also for the feeding system, for example, one of them used TeamViewer to remotely access and do service on the feeding system. And TeamViewer is not known to be, or it has been used in some attacks throughout the world.
It's very popular amongst the hackers. They love it.
Yeah. Again, so some measures used to keep maintenance of these machines can be used to attack them. And if you then go through the supplier of these machines, you can take out multiple at the same time. But then you also have those that deliver other products like feed to the farms. We have Felleskjøpet in Norway is a very big supplier of feed. And if they weren't able to deliver feed to all of these farms in Norway, then animal welfare would be a problem. But also animals that are unfed properly also can't produce in the same way.
All right.
and they need feed every day, and farmers do have a supply they buy for maybe 3 weeks or longer at a time, but they can't go on forever. So, for example, or if they finish up a hit the 3 days before someone is low on their supply, and they're gone in 2 weeks, then we have a problem.
Yeah, and the animals definitely have a problem. Right?
Yeah, but then on the other side, you also have those that receive products from the farmers and develop them. And we have seen an example of such an attack in Norway in 2021, Nortura, which is a meat processing company. They were attacked, and they managed to limit the consequence of the ransomware by turning off their systems. But it took under 2 weeks before they were up again with manual routines and sending paper orders and taking orders by phone. But still, that led to some empty shelves in the stores. And over Christmas, so people were very much not happy with that. And also TINE, which is the same in milk. TINE and Nortura are market regulators in Norway because they are so big. They are required to receive or collect milk and meat from every farm in Norway that wishes to. And if they weren't able to do this job, then we wouldn't be able to produce. And TINE delivers to a lot of dairy producers, those that produce cheeses and all the dairy products on the shelf. They deliver milk to these as well.
Yeah. So this system is very interconnected, and a very small amount of players as well.
Yeah, especially the big ones. I think there are a lot of small ones in, for example, producing seeds, and you also have some big actors in producing fertilizer, and some are global, some are small. And you have those that some are more specific, and we have a lot of small actors, but we have some very big, very important actors that have become so important for the industry and deliver for a lot of the whole, are responsible for a huge part of the supply chain.
Yeah. So it's a very big, there's a large amount of a systemic risk here from a cyber perspective.
Yeah, definitely. We are very dependent on a few. So we have local mills, but when you have market regulators, if they aren't able to deliver, then we don't really have anyone else available with the capacity to collect that amount of milk from the farms.
And I remember I've been working with security for 8 years or 9 years, and I've never had so many people text me as the day that happened in Nortura, right? Because everybody that was walking by, everybody that was at the store sent me a message like, "Hey, are you guys working on this?" So there's a lot of attention that, and we saw that. I think you mentioned it, the JBS. Did you mention the JBS event in the States as well?
Yeah, so that was in 2021 as well. I think JBS is one of the world's largest meat processors, and they stand for about a quarter of cattle meat or cow meat and a fifth of pig meat in the US. And they were hit by ransom. They chose to pay, but it cost them 1 day of production. And this led to a national US meat shortage. And according to FBI, a 25% increase in prices from that one day of production stopping.
Yeah.
And so globally, we can see these actors are very important.
Yeah.
And I think that's why they paid. Didn't really feel like they had the choice.
Yeah. Do you know what they paid?
I don't know. They were.
But either way, whatever they paid was probably nothing compared to what it would have cost them as a company not to produce, and also just the Americans without their meat, they would go crazy. There'd be riots in the street,
Yeah. Not a good sight, I think.
No, exactly. So I remember after your fantastic presentation, you had a lot of questions from the crowd asking what should we do?
Yeah, there are a lot of things. I think one of the issues is that there's very little information. We know very little of this area of cybersecurity and food supply, and we have some preparedness in terms of supply that come from natural disasters, for example. It's considered having readiness in the sector, but but not from a cyber perspective. But we just need to discover more. What do we actually know, and what do we have of procedures in cases where these things happen, and also what are the important actors? Which are there any other actors that we don't know about that are critical for the supply chain? And so we need to do a lot of discovery, and then also the type of research I did was only on cattle and pig farms. What about the chicken farms? They heavily rely on temperature control to keep their chickens alive. And I did interview a chicken farmer, but it only once. I couldn't include it in the research. But he said that a fault that was because of a lightning strike that caused the system failure. That didn't happen that day, but later, and that to get all the chickens, because that temperature control system stopped working. And chickens are very sensitive when they're young in terms of exact humidity and temperature and all this. And then you have the more traditional agricultural PwC on the farmland, and the tractors and the whole John Deere, like tractors that are definitely hackable from long distance, as demonstrated on DEF CON, but also by John Deere themselves and Russian hackers. And
you gotta tell us that story, by the way. That was good.
Yeah, it's a very fun, kind of a fun story. So in 2021 at DEF CON, two hackers demonstrated kind of the ease of hacking into getting remote access to John Deere tractors, and Case New Holland also. And John Deere kind of responded and said that, okay, but this is not you can't do this on tractors that are on farms. It's just tractors that aren't in production yet, or at customers' places. But then during the war, there were two John Deere tractors in Ukraine that was stolen by the Russian military. And so John Deere themselves used that remote connection to turn off those tractors. But then the Russian military had hackers that turned them on again. And so, like, they said themselves, you can't do this. And then John Deere did themselves as part of the war. And it kind
Good
of
example,
shows,
just everything is connected, right?
Yeah, it kind of just shows how easy these technologies are to hack.
Because they're not really meant to be. These are not technologies that need to be locked down or maybe they should be locked down, but that's not what they were thinking about when they made them, I guess.
I think that's kind of a systematic issue in this case, is that a lot of other critical societal functions we've thought about cybersecurity in them, like the power industry. We think that, okay, this can be targeted, and health, we know that we need to protect data here. And then in the agriculture industry, you have a very expansive digitization and use of technologies, but you haven't really thought about cybersecurity alongside that development. And so we're just left with a lot of technologies that are really vulnerable.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I'm very appreciative that you're highlighting this challenge, or actually it's a problem. It's a very big risk that our society is something so critical as food.
Probably some of these actors have thought about cybersecurity. It's not like I'm the first one talking about it, but we need to know. That's kind of my point. There's a lot of things we don't know, and maybe some person out there sits with more information on, okay, we do have some security within this area, but we need to lift that to a higher level and make it public knowledge and confirm that, okay, do we know all the risks and vulnerabilities in the industry? Are we aware of every area where an attack would be critical? And I think there are some areas we do not know about. Definitely.
For sure. Well, are you going to continue studying, or are you going to work in this from the corporate side and help clients get this in order?
Yeah, so I finished my master this June, and now I'm a consultant at PwC working with cybersecurity. So hopefully we can work with some clients in the industry and create work from that side. That would be really nice. But I do know my supervisor wants me to do a PhD on the topic. Yeah. So we'll see, maybe in the future, after getting some industry experience, maybe I'll go back to doing my research and because then I feel like I have more solid ground to stand on in doing that research with the industry knowledge.
Yeah. Well, it's I really hope that you do continue that. And I guess the good thing about this, in Norway at least, is that it is like there's a few big logos, big companies with a lot of employees and a lot of money to actually address this problem if it has the right amount of pressure, I guess I could say. And I would assume that they will be defined as, like, what do they call it in Norway? A nasjonal grunnleggende funksjon, a very important entity, I guess.
Yeah, I think, and hopefully, like, these big ones take kind of the responsibility of the sector, but I also think in other critical societal functions in Norway, we have the state supports and gives budgets to secure, allocates assets to help secure that industry. And NSM, like National Security Authority in Norway, they have in their 2022 report highlight that we need to be aware of our supply chain. We aren't we do not have a good enough overview of our supply chain in order to know what we need to protect. And so hopefully when we do know more, they can help us protect it from by the state also. But yeah, I think the combination of like it's a national responsibility, but also the big actors can take on some of the responsibility to secure their own sector and help the smaller ones, because there are a lot of small companies within the sector that do not have the capability or capacity to do this on their own.
Well, Karianne, we heard it from you first. Thank you so much for highlighting this risk, and congratulations on your on the 2023 ISACA-prisen.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here. It's always fun to talk about.
Right. We wish you the best of luck. And even though I guess PwC is by definition a competitor to Mnemonic, I wish both you and PwC the best in this area.
We all want to work to secure the world.
We all need to eat, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And that being said, now it's dinner time. So enjoy your evening, Karianne.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.